People, it is the 17th of January. Welcome to Newspaper Breakdown. I hope we all had a good weekend and all of that shit. News to go through, some interesting stuff, of course. We've got yet another Met police officer has been revealed to be a rapist. It's difficult to keep up with how many there are. This is a 20-year vet, committed over 70 serious sexual offences. Once again, the Met has been shown that themselves to be remarkably incompetent when it comes to actually dealing with crime as a fucking whole, especially in their own remit. The Met was told about 9 incidents from this cunt between 2000 and 2021. Today or yesterday, they finally sacked the fucker. This is... You have to think whether this is one of those men's clubs, you know, where sexism is so prevalent and they're so protective of each other that it doesn't matter what happens. They will protect until the day is long, no matter what piece of vile shit they have to deal in. And this is a continual, this is a domino effect, because the more stories we get from this, and there will be more, there are more rapists, there are more fucking sexual predators in the police. This isn't the last one. And all this does is continue to knock away any form of trust you can possibly have for the police. So you'll have women now, as they already have to walk around with a fucking bus stop under their arm because our government decide that the best way to help them is to give them advice if they're feeling unsafe to fucking hail a bus, which you can't do because it's a fucking bus and you don't hail buses. So you've got a woman feeling unsafe. What's she going to do? Call the police? Why would she feel safe doing that when every fucking story we hear about the police is it's another fucking rapist? Oh God, there's someone following me. I best call up a fucking police officer who's probably going to piss in follow me. Something has to be done, but the police have to take it seriously. You can't have 9 incidents between 2021 and at no point going, I tell you, no, we're not. There's nothing we can do here. If someone gets 9 incidents and they say, listen, there's something wrong with this lad, 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 and you go, oh fucking, we don't need to look into this. Madness. They're police officers. Their job is to investigate potential crimes. If they can't do it to their own fucking people, what chance do they have for the outside world? You also got mass poison. Is that fucking the one who killed Sarah Everard had a nickname of fucking rapist? Nothing. Oh, it's all just jokes. Just WhatsApp, how you like to rape people and fucking bigotry and racism and everything else. We need to set up like a police force to police the fucking police. And then we'd end up finding out that they're all fucking rapists, and then we'd need a police force to police the police force. The people who are policing the police force. And everyone's job will be working for the fucking police force, tending to investigate the police force underneath them. They shall have full employment at that point. Anyway. Mass poisoning has killed off most of the sea life around 30 miles around the Tees, as what is seemingly the normal case in this country now. The government and scientists are disagreeing. Government says that it's happening just because, you know, it's one of those things. It's natural, you know. Mass poisonings, as we know, constantly happen. Just it's part and parcel. Whereas the scientists are claiming that it's man-made. The government does not want too much attention on this particular area at the moment, because it's one of the places that they wish to put in a free port Freeport is one of those things that is going to be a massive benefit after Brexit, even though we could have had a Freeport during when we were part of the EU. But truth doesn't matter. The Freeport will not happen if it is confirmed that there is man-made mass poisoning in the area, because you won't be able to build a Freeport there because no one will want to fucking touch it. This is a continuation of the government claiming how much they care about the environment, yet actually doing nothing. You see, it was Sunak and Boris Johnson and everyone standing up, we need to do something about the environment, and then they don't do anything because they don't actually care, because money is everything. Continuing on with how little people care about the environment, despite having signed up to net zero pledges, banks and financial institutions are still heavily investing in fossil fuels. You had 450 organisations from 45 countries with assets of more than $130 trillion. They signed up to the Glasgow Financial Alliance of for Net Zero at COP26. COP26 was last year's, 2021's one. And that was to align their investments with a goal of limiting global temperature rises to 1.5 degrees above pre-industrial levels. Since then, billions and billions have been poured into fossil fuels. It's very easy to say you care. It's much harder to actually do something about it, because that takes effort. And as I said for the previous news story, money. Good money, which never makes any sense to me, because I think if we put all of our money into renewables, you would create a brand new industry that would be worth fucking tons and wouldn't destroy the world. And I think that sounds like a fucking win-win. I cannot understand, in this capitalist world where money is everything, why you wouldn't want to be the leader and get most of the fucking pie in a long term for renewable energy. If you were the one, if you were a Shell or fucking BP and everything else, why you wouldn't invest so heavily in renewables to be the world leader, to take all of the fucking pie? Because we will need renewables. The world ends or renewables, that's it. And it's not hyperbole to say that the world ends. The world ends. That's it. We've already got people in vulnerable places dying over this. So if you were to be the world leader in renewables, the amount of money you would make would be huge. Absolutely fucking tons. We got the average real-term pay in Britain fell at among the fastest rate for more than 20 years at the end of 2022. Public sector continues to fall behind private during the cost of living. It's important when you think about the continuation of strikes up and down the country, that the public sector is still lagging behind by quite a significant amount from the private sector. The ONS said that wages in real terms declined 2.6% in the 3 months to November, one of the largest falls since 2001 when comparable records began. This is the most fun bit. This is the most fun bit, and this is something that you'll when you start listening to the government talk about this. This is how they'll say it. If you ignore inflation, annual growth in regular pay, excluding bonuses, actually went up 6.4%, which is the fastest growth since 2001. Now, listen to that. If you exclude inflation, which is pointless, it is absolutely pointless, because if you exclude inflation, it sounds delightful, but it means nothing because it's not the real world. Inflation is 10.7%. So the rises is a 7.2% in private, with the public, and this is excluding inflation, with the public is a 3.3% rise. Not real term, because real term is falling out of its hole. It's interesting to see, because I looked at a couple of different news sources for this, and seeing the headlines is where the interest really lies. Because one headline was real wages down. That was a headline. Another headline was pay rises at fastest pace in 20 years, but below inflation. Now, if you read that headline, you get a very different feeling, because we all know that the majority of us, when we're looking at news, we're swiping through, news comes up, we just see the headline. We only see the headline, and we only read the headline. And so if you see that headline, pay rises at fastest in 20 years, why is everyone complaining? Why is everyone talking? What's happening with this cost of living? Everyone seems to be making all this money. Pay rises are going up faster than 20 years. But if you read the first headline, real wages down, simple, to the point, that's down. Now, if you add on at the end, but below inflation, you have to take into account there's more information there that you have to put together yourself. Meaning that if you read the second headline, you would probably only skip and go, pay rises at fastest in 20 years, but below inflation. Wouldn't stick in there. And so what you're going to be seeing is governments, because governments do like to talk shit. They will be saying, if you have a look at wage rises are actually the highest they've been in 20 years, and they will ignore, or they'll small words, small letters, or they'll add on below inflation. Now, shout the first one, whisper the second. Got two stories left. Ethnic segregation is on the wane in England and Wales, according to the new census. Nationally, neighbourhood diversity has more than doubled between 2001 and 2021. This is good. This goes against the racism pushed by the likes of Farage, that claim that some cities were minority white cities. That's when all the census information came out, and Farage wanted to continue to push his racism. It would be more accurate to say that we now have cities that are highly ethnically diverse. Ethnic diversity can reduce racism because it's not us and them anymore. You all live together, you all get to know each other, you know people. It reduces racism. I'm not saying it has done, but that is the type of thing that can help to reduce racism. I will caveat that by saying that data has yet to be looked at with regards to access to better education, housing and health, which will probably show that we still have a ways to go in tackling systematic institutional racism. But it's a nice start. There is a chance of seeing a touch of a silver lining, the small glistening of potential silver in that storm cloud of living. Final story is the UK government is blocking reforms by the Scottish Parliament on the gender recognition process bill. The First Minister, Nicola Sturgeon, has said that it was a full frontal attack on the Scottish Parliament. Very much playing into her hands for her well-known saying of independence, independence, independence. It is the first time that the UK government has done such a thing, and will prevent the bill from going forward by royal assent. The bill sets out to simplify the process of obtaining a gender recognition certificate, and for the first time allow transgender people to obtain such a document without the need of a medical diagnosis. It also lowers the time needed living as a gender before applying for the certificate, and reduces the age at which applications can be made to 16. Now, with all of the continual discussion on the pros and cons and the rights and wrongs and the rights of transgender people, I'm not going to be giving an opinion. Quite honestly, I don't have one. It's the complexity of it all is well beyond me, and it shouldn't be. I mean, potentially at one point I will say something, but I believe in equality. That's what I believe in. So I would always tend to move towards the side of, let's treat transgender people fairly. Ignore the scaremongering that goes on about the idea that all trans women want to do is go into toilet and attack women and all of this horse shit. But there is an interesting look in this with why Sunak has decided to stop this bill from going forward, and for the first time the UK to stop the Scottish Parliament from doing something, because it's a very dangerous game, isn't it? Because what you're looking at is you're giving potentially Sturgeon having more fuel for independence, but you're also, what Sunak's also doing is potentially chucking something very dangerous for Starmer, because one of Starmer's massive policies is more devolution. He wants much more devolution. And so here, if Starmer continues with his want for more devolution and backs Sturgeon, what the attack is going to be by the Tories is, you do not care about biological women. Because this is the continual discussion, debate of anything to come with trans rights is constantly about equality between biological women and trans women. It's strange how you never hear anything with regards to trans men. There's never a discussion in that. I think that's potentially weird, but there are no doubt reasoning for that. It's a lot easier discussion. It's a lot easier to paint bad guys when you're talking about biological women and their rights comparative to trans women. You've got ready-made fear there. You've got history that can be moulded into your want to remove freedoms for others. It's much harder to go, I tell you what, we have to make sure that these trans men and fucking men's rights and everything, it just doesn't work, does it? There, as I say, there isn't the fear. But we're not going to find a conclusion today, are we? Let's be honest. It'll be interesting to see how it develops. This is the Tories' new attack as they try to stumble Starmer as we're leading up to the election next year. So, well, I hope you've found this interesting. I shall speak to you tomorrow.